Hey everyone, and welcome back. I got a couple things to share with you guys today. The first thing I did want to say is I've been playing around with the speed, the little speed function. If you look down, probably I don't know if it shows up different on everybody's different operating systems or whatever. But if you go down one of the corners, for mine, it's down on the right hand side. Bottom right hand corner where you can expand the screen, full screen and such. There's a little cog down there, and you click on that, and I think my videos are a little bit easier to digest by clicking the two. So you're speeding it up 2 times speed, right? Just a little tip. I watched mine like that, and I even enjoy my own videos at twice the speed. So there's a little tip for that. Second thing I wanted to share with you guys. As you can tell, I'm still working on the tool chest. I did get the final rails in, and I ended up putting a board in that void only because I wanted to fasten the main rail with screws, and I wanted more purchase for the screws than just that thin outer shell. I don't know exactly how thick it is, but I would imagine it's, I don't know, 3/16, quarter inch, something like that. But anyway, so I want a little more purchase, so I did that, and then I put the board in the void, both sides. Cut both the rails. They're both good. They're even. They're good to go. Screwed them in, and that's kind of where we sit. Now you can see I'm fitting up. I'm making it fitting up the bottom. Well, those are actually not the bottoms. Those are the two sides. But I'm making I'm making a back, and I got to make a front, and then obviously I got to make the bottom, and then I'll do that times 2 for 2 different trays. They're going to be 14 inches wide, which will leave me a little bit of room in between so I can get my hands down there and pick up the trays, and I can set one tray on top of the other, and so on. Which that just kind of gave me another idea. I don't know if I'll go anywhere with it, but maybe cutting a rabbet on the bottom side. Basically all around the box so that one box will sit inside of another. Well, I'll play around with that idea and see what comes of that. But I did have so I have the trays to make, and I got to drill a hole in the top right here, in here, and chisel out a little bit of that board that I put in the void for those locking dowels. But other than that, after I do the dowels and the trays, the only thing I have left is to blacksmith my handles that are going to go, I got one for each one of the small ones, and then this long one has 2 handles on it. So that's 4 I have to make, and then plus I said I was going to make one large one to go right here to pull it in and out from from underneath the bench. So last Tuesday, we had a snow day, and so I made good use of my snow day. I fired up the forge early in the morning and went to town. I hammered a little bit more on the first piece that I ever started forging, but that thing is so damn hard. I worked it a little bit in between heats, got a good workout. But I did forge myself that first handle that's going to go right underneath the latch, so right about there. And I think it's pretty cool. It is, it's not perfect. It has flaws. I could put it back in the forge, heat it up, and fix the flaws. It wouldn't take very much effort to fix the flaws that I have in it. To get it much more acceptable than what it is now. But I really, really like, I don't know what it is, but it's totally functional the way it is. It's flat, it's usable, and so I'm going to leave the flaws in it. It's my very first piece that I've ever forged. it's the first piece I've ever forged, like start to finish, and I'm pretty proud of it. It looks cool, and I'll point out some of the flaws, but it just kind of reminds me, puts the lesson into perspective for me that, you know, nobody's perfect, and if I put this handle right there on the box where I pull the carpenter's tool chest out every day, I'll remind myself of that lesson. You know, nobody's perfect. Do the best that you can, and be happy with what abilities you have and what you've been able to accomplish. So I started off. I was trying to go for one of the smaller handles, but I got my measurements wrong, and not my measurements wrong, but I I cut too much steel. I didn't realize it was going to draw out as long as it ended up being. So I was like, well, you know what? Let's go with it, and just go ahead and make the big handle. That'll give me practice for the smaller ones anyway. So I started out with a piece of 1/2 inch round hot rolled steel. So it's just plain, probably, you know, it's just mild steel. Nothing fancy. Picked this up at Ace Hardware, 1/2 inch round bar, and this was a 6 inch piece I cut off. That's what I thought I would need for the drawer pulls, but it turned out to be too much. So I took and I squared it off, put a twist, pinned some flanges on it, and this is what it turned out to be. So it started out like this, and that's what I made. So as you can see, it's pretty cool. I think it's cool. The distances between the twist and the flange are actually very, very close. It just looks funny. It looks like this side's longer because the twist opens up a little wider here. It's a little tighter here and a little looser here because there was an uneven heat there, and probably had something to do with where I placed my twisting wrench and where I mounted it in the vise when I went to do the twist. So I'm learning in that respect. The distances here aren't even. They're pretty close, but they're not perfect. The flanges are parallel. They're on the same plane, so that's good. It's a usable piece. And the corners, of course, you know, the corners aren't in great shape. There's enough meat there. It's not going to break on me. I mean, this is steel. It's a totally functional, usable piece. I loved it. I had a lot of fun making the piece. It was my very first blacksmithing piece, very first piece I ever hand forged, start to finish, in the forge that I restored, on the anvil that I restored, using the blacksmith vise that I restored. It was a very cool process. I got to use all of it, and it was really, really cool. So this is going to go right about there. So, well, you probably can't see that, but there. It'll end up going somewhere around right there. And I'll think about that every time I go to pull out my carpenter's tool chest. So that's about it for that. Again, I think my videos are much easier to digest, especially the really long ones in the 2x speed. Making some good progress. I'm going to mill up a couple more boards tonight before I got to stop and get ready for tomorrow. And I made the first handle for my tool chest. So good progress. Not a lot, not very quick, but it's making progress, and I'm happy. So it is what it is. If you're digging what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. Friends and family, I love you. Everyone else, I'll see you on the next clip.